Hello, everyone. My name is Felix Shipkevich. Today is October 27th, and I am humbled and excited to add to the webinar series provided by law firm and particularly DebtReliefWatch.com, focusing on the role of legal plans in the debt settlement space. This is another series, another angle discussing the type of services offered to consumers in the debt settlement space. And today's webinar will be co-hosted with my colleague, Angelo Anzalone, who I'll present in just a minute. So thank you for joining. Angelo, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Felix. Thanks for having me. Good to be here. Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I love this opportunity to speak about the legal plan and the role that it plays within the debt settlement space. My name is Angelo Anzalone. I've been in the industry probably a little over 15 years now. I started with a company called Active Debt Solutions. I was one of the first performance-based settlement companies out there prior to the no advance fee rules. So I was always mindful of the consumers and the amount that is going into savings and how the whole program works. It's been something that I've been very passionate about, and creating and seeing an opportunity back when the no advance fee rule came out. And I saw the shift, everyone going to the attorney model or performance. I saw an opportunity to create a legal plan or a product that could level the playing field for those that are doing it right on the performance side. And the Veritas Legal Plan was born. Since then, it has evolved into probably one of the largest legal plan within the space. I think in terms of not only size, but even just recognition. We have a lot that we do within the industry and participating in the events and stuff. So a little bit about me. That's kind of what I wanted to throw out there. I've been in the industry for a long time. I understand debt settlement very well. Having owned a debt settlement company, and I'm looking forward to talking about this product and how it'll help.
Thanks, Angelo. I've known Angelo for a number of years. Probably since 2015, and I can tell you, he runs a fantastic company, great staff, and I'm pretty excited to have him here today. A little about me. I'll make it really short for those of you who are return listeners to our webinar series. I'm an attorney. I spend my time between Miami and New York City, where my firm has offices. We work with various debt settlement service providers, debt settlement companies, front ends, marketing companies, payment processors, technology companies, just to name a few. We handle anything from regulatory to litigation in the space, and we are excited that you are joining us once again. We have a pretty good following of folks in the debt relief space, and actually welcoming new companies that are joining the space, which are in the credit repair arena, and so we're excited to have them as well. Before we go into the presentation, let me give a quick plug for the upcoming regulatory workshop that will be held in Costa Mesa, California, on November 7th and 8th. In fact, I urge you to attend, not just to meet with my attorneys who will be in attendance, but also with Angelo and his staff. And in fact, Veritas is one of the sponsors. They sponsored a previous event in 2019, and we're very excited to have them sponsor again. I can tell you that if you do enjoy these webinars, you will certainly enjoy a day and a half worth of content concerning this space. The cost for the event is very reasonable. It covers breakfast, lunch, event materials, and obviously a day and a half worth of content. Plus, you'll get an opportunity to network with other individuals in this space. And I promise you one thing: in addition to content, For those of you who attended my firm's 2019 event, I do make this as interesting as possible because the last thing anybody wants to do is hear more attorneys talk. So so please, you could get more information about this on debtreliefwatch.com, where you could register. In any case, let's talk about legal plans. And we are excited, as I said, to have Veritas. So the topics for discussion today is Angelo is going to talk a little bit about his company, what they do, the type of plans that they offer, the pros and cons of participating in legal plans. Overall, I also want to talk about the role of legal plans in the debt settlement space. We've seen newcomers into the space that offer these type of services. We've also actually seen in the past 5 years, I've seen big insurance companies coming, not in the debt settlement space, but offering legal plans by offering consumers the opportunity to buy an insurance product that would help them in the event of any litigation and any type of adverse event that requires them to have assistance from an attorney. Also coupled with companies like LegalZoom, for instance, who they don't provide legal plans, but they provide sort of a legal club membership where you could get like a less expensive, if you pay a monthly fee, access to an attorney. And finally, we'll talk about the regulatory issues. We'll touch upon what are the sort of the big issues in this space, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. So let me turn it over to Angelo. He'll discuss Veritas.
Thanks again, Felix. So like I said earlier, we have been in the industry now a little over 10 years. This is all we do. This is all that we know. The entire concept of Veritas Legal Plan was created around the debt settlement space. One of the things for me is that's most important that I always talk about is customer service. And in this industry, particularly, I think that's one of the most important things. And we pride ourselves on that. Our BBB rating is, check it out, stellar reviews. The consumer protection work that we do is probably one of the most sought after and probably helps out our plan just as much as the lawsuit defense. But to date, a little over $5 million that has been awarded to consumers, close to $5 million in debt waived based off of violations of consumer protection violations. So the whole idea behind this is that being around as long as we have, we understand compliance as well, and even on our side, being basically Veritas Legal Plan is an insurance product. We are fronted by an admitted carrier. We are registered in the states that we do business in, except Florida. But in terms of putting trust in a company, I think that the compliance component and the customer service component really speaks for itself, and the experience. And in a nutshell, the program, basically the biggest part of the program, the meat and potatoes, of course, it's all important, but the creditor lawsuit defense. What we bring to the table in terms of value is going to be a couple of things. We address 2 out of 3 of the top reasons why consumers fall out of a debt settlement program. That's the best way to look at it. I mean, obviously the consumers, if their situation gets worse or if it gets better, that's the main reason that they would fall out of a debt settlement program. Then you have lawsuits and you have collection calls, and those are typically the top reasons why consumers just have had enough and they don't want to do it anymore. So offering a legal plan is a value add to your service. Whether you make commission on it or you don't make commission on it, it's still a value add to your company. All the consumer protection work that we do, the unemployment benefit that pays up to $500 for 3 months if the member becomes involuntary unemployed. The idea behind this, excuse me, is holding on to those term settlements that are there. If one of your members loses their job, typically 3 months, you don't want them to miss any of the payments on a term settlement. You don't want to lose that. It goes right back to the original balance, and that's like the worst thing that can happen here. So that's really important. That there is also a product that reports the member's monthly payment as a positive trade line. Anything that counters what's going on is helpful. And we all know that it's not a matter of being in a debt settlement program. It's the fact that they've defaulted on their debt. So positive trade lines always help offset. And that's, the benefit of that one there. Discounted legal services and then credit reports as well. So custom packages that we could create depending on what type of benefits you want to include in the plan. But overall, that's sort of an overview of the company.
Thanks, Angelo. So let's talk about what role legal plans play in the debt settlement space. And I'm going to ask you a number of questions, and we're going to sort of follow the same model that we did by running a webinar of this type with Lending USA. And let's have a dialogue, and I'd like to hear a little bit more. So from a high-level perspective, why don't you tell me, generally speaking, what role do legal plans play in the debt settlement space, and specifically, what role does Veritas play?
I think you know, from my side, where we stand, and we get the phone calls all day when a consumer receives a lawsuit or they're just getting flooded with collection calls. But I think calming down that consumer, knowing, having the experience within the debt space and understanding what the consumer is going through, having gone through it myself a long time ago, we understand the value of putting our arms around the consumer, making them feel safe, making them feel like they're being taken care of. I would say we definitely help with attrition. There's not a doubt in my mind when clients call us up and they're upset, we play a big role in being the liaison. Same thing when it comes to the actual settlements. Our role is that we make sure that all parties are communicating. And you'd be surprised, but that's a very important role in making sure that nothing slips through the cracks. So I think, you know, when you talk about value add, is that's another role. I think the value add of a legal plan is tremendous. It's not just about making commissions. You know, thinking about increasing your enrollments just because you're able to say that you cover any lawsuits in consumer protection. Higher retention rate because you are now not losing clients due to the lawsuits, right? They have that comfort, that peace of mind, knowing that those lawsuits are going to get taken care of. You will get better settlements on those legal accounts as well. We have data that we would love to share that shows the settlements that we've accomplished within the space on the legal accounts. And of course, all of that just equals you know, an absolute increase in revenue. So I mean, I think it's an important part of the space. I think as far as a debt settlement company, it's something that if you don't have, your competitor has, you know, you're at a disadvantage. That's my opinion.
Let me comment a little bit on top of what you said. Ever since the Google pay-per-click ban that took place in October of 2019, the acquisition cost in this space has gone up tremendously. And in addition to that, client retention, has always been a major obstacle for debt settlement companies and continues to be. And I found just from representing a number of you know, mid-sized to large debt settlement companies, back ends, as we call them in the space. So we could laugh more about why we call them back ends and front ends at my event. But I found that the retention of clients is significantly better, statistically better, when a DSC, a debt settlement company, is allowing its consumers to participate in these legal plans. It's tremendously better. I think last time I looked statistically, it's something like a third or more better. So if the attrition rate is X, those companies that offer legal plans, and the reason for attrition is particularly because of lawsuits, right? So you know, instead of a client calling you know, the customer service says, I just got sued and this doesn't work for me, I'm going to go the bankruptcy route, right? You know, it's well, do you remember that you actually are participating in this plan, and you know, have you spoken to your legal plan provider? In this case, I'm going to use Veritas as an example. That I've seen is a tremendous way to keep that client, to retain that client from leaving the debt settlement company. So anyway, just kind of wanted to add that to the conversation.
No, it's true. That is an absolute fact, Felix. It certainly does help with and even enrollments. Again, you know, if you have if you're on the phone and your competitor is offering a legal plan and you're not, which do you think the consumer is going to go with?
Right. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Angela, I think that I've seen statistics that vary than 20 to 25% of consumers enrolled in debt settlement programs end up dealing with lawsuits. I've seen actually even higher, but I don't know if you've seen those statistics as well. So that's a pretty
It's
big
funny.
number.
It really does. It ranges from, believe it or not, it ranges between affiliates. And this is how, from our eye view, sort of from the sky view, we can see who's doing what. But yes, some are longer, some are much shorter. I absolutely see the difference there.
Yeah, but if you're looking even at 1/4 or 1/5 of your files, dealing with consumers who get sued in one or more lawsuits. I mean, that's a tremendous number. Again, my role as running these webinars is not to try to promote everybody to get a legal plan, but my role is to show pros and cons. And this is a big pro. It's a huge pro, and it's often overlooked. And I think that companies in this space that provide this type of service are integral to consumer protection, ensuring that consumers are protected in case of any lawsuits. Anyway, so well, which leads me to the next. Let's talk about both pros and cons for a consumer to participate in the program. Tell me in your honest opinion, what are the pros, what are the cons, and also talk about the costs. I don't know if you feel comfortable, but
sure.
If you could touch
No,
upon
I do. I mean, when it comes to the cons, obviously the big one that I would have to, and I'd be lying if I didn't acknowledge this, but it would be that obviously the cost would take away from the consumer's accumulation, and it would thereby extend the program. And that, I think, would have to be the biggest con in an environment nowadays. What I'm seeing and what I have been seeing is, back in the day, there was always the push for, this is our average settlement. This is our average settlement with fees, and everybody would boast about these numbers. Nowadays, what I'm seeing is the boasting is, how quickly can we get a settlement? And there is belief that the quicker you get a consumer into a settlement, the higher your attrition rate is going to be, because now they're satisfied, they're happy, they're seeing something. And I understand that logic. So that I understand is, when you talk about pros and cons, it would have to be that it does take away from the client's accumulation in the early stages. Overall, it only extends the program, maybe 3-4 months at the end of the day. That's it. But that would be the biggest obstacle there.
And when you said how quickly, I think that's also a very key regulatory point. When you look at TSR and you also look at some of the state laws or state regulations in the debt settlement space, you see that you have to provide disclosure of how long the program will take and the cost associated with this program. And clearly, I've been involved in a number of investigations representing DSCs when the regulators are just concerned that the programs take way too long. I mean, I've seen programs which, frankly, were just ridiculous. I could tell you that I don't think a program should be 10 years long, 20 years long. I've seen some crazy numbers, and that's a problem, right? Usually the program is anywhere, I've seen in the short end, from a year to as long as 5 years, and obviously that varies depending on the amount of debt, as somebody's ability to pay to make those monthly payments. But the regulators are quite frustrated when these programs take way too long and there's very little done. So the timing, right, the length of the program and how quickly do you actually get these settlements is a really critical component. So thank you for touching upon that. So tell me a little bit more about what, so if I'm a consumer and I am being offered this plan, what does the underwriting process look like with Veritas, Angelo?
It's quite simple. Our affiliate companies that currently offer Veritas will include our paperwork within their documents when they're sending their documents out. So it's at point of sale. And so once we receive the executed document from the consumer, we'll do a welcome call, and that's just a brief, we're Veritas, and here's what happens if you receive a lawsuit. And we are separate companies, and we handle lawsuits and consumer protection, and your company handles everything having to do with the debt settlement process. We touch on if they're getting collection calls, any potential consumer protection problems. If they're not, most likely they're still with the original creditor. Then we just give them instructions on when to contact us. And unless there's a lawsuit or they're having some type of harassment consumer protection problem, We don't hear from them, and they don't hear from us until there is an issue.
Sounds good. Yep. And let's talk about your relationship with debt settlement companies. Actually, maybe not debt settlement companies, but I believe that your program is introduced also with front ends, marketing companies. Tell about how does that introduction take place? What are the relationships that you have with the debt settlement companies and marketing companies in the space?
Well, I mean, for the most part, it is an affiliate type of a relationship where can you imagine what our marketing costs would be if we went direct to the consumer and tried to enroll them in Veritas, right? So there's a huge marketing, even just the education, the learning curve for the consumer to understand that they are at risk of being sued when they default on their debt, or that there is accountability for those collection calls, and they can't threaten that they're going to put you in jail. And call your coworkers and your family and talk about your debt. So I think it's up to the debt settlement company to, at least while they are disclosing, hey, by law, I have to tell you, there's a chance you're going to get sued. By law, you are going to receive collection calls. They are within their rights to call.
No, that's right. Even in California right now, you're required to do that under the new legislation. That you could get sued. Absolutely. Yeah.
So you have to disclose that information. So problem solution, right? I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. If you have to disclose, here is the problem and here is the solution, and that's why it's welcome. Because it's not only handling all of the situations, the problems for the consumers, any concerns that they may have, but it also solves a problem for the debt settlement company in terms of us being a separate product, right? We're an ancillary product. We're not debt settlement. We don't earn any money from negotiating any debt. Our attorneys don't either. Nobody does. Like, this is a licensed legal plan. So we are not a debt settlement company. So as an ancillary service that is an optional service, and I want to touch on that it absolutely has to be optional and cannot be bundled. I think that's a really, really important part of monetizing and being able to earn a little bit of residual and an enrollment fee. So it helps on all fronts.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting in this space. I sometimes, especially the new entrants who are coming into this space, they confuse the legal plans with debt settlement companies, and I think that we just need to remind them that legal plans just charge a monthly fee. Consumers pay them directly, right? And it's collected by by the payment processors and distributed on behalf of the consumers, just to kind of simplify the process. But ultimately, it's paid by the consumers. It's not paid by it's not what your make doesn't is not reflected in the amount of debt or whether savings or debt load. So it's just a flat fee, and that's how really companies in the space, legal planning companies, should participate. They can't really be involved and sort of be a de facto debt settlement company. So that's a kind of a good point. So if I'm accepted into the plan, what is my waiting period? What happens next? And what happens if I get sued?
Well, typically we have a 14-day waiting period from the day that we receive the first payment, and that would be we would consider that a premium payment, and then active after 14 days. So anytime a lawsuit comes in after 14 days, you're covered for that. And if you receive a lawsuit, let's say a consumer signed up and they go 4 or 5 months in, they receive a lawsuit, we cover the lawsuit. If the next month they hit the jackpot and settle all of their debt, we still will cover that lawsuit if they cancel the plan. So it's like, no different than car insurance, right? If you get into an accident and you put in a claim, and then 3 months later you decide to, or a month later you decide to change plans, they still have to cover that claim. So it's the same concept. And then canceling at any time. There's no, it's a month-to-month plan. We do that because we don't, it's impossible to know how long each program is going to take. So we make it a month-to-month plan. If you pay on the first, you're covered till the end of the month. It's simple to cancel at any time.
Gotcha. Let me ask you a question. Actually, I never thought about this. Once I graduate, when I say once a consumer graduates from a debt settlement program, do I have the ability to continue getting the service from you, in case of any other lawsuits down the road, or is that does it typically end once the program ends in the space?
It typically ends, and we have what we call the after debt plan, and that's catered more to those consumers who have graduated and completed a debt settlement program, and that plan is really more geared now towards the next step, right? That now what? I settled all my accounts, I'm out of debt. What's the next step? And then the next step, obviously, is going to be to clean up your credit and to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And so the after debt plan comes with a credit repair plan and embedded in it, and all of the other services. So the consumer protection services, making sure that the accounts that were settled are updated correctly on the consumer's credit report, always, and still providing with that consumer protection as well. If there was a lawsuit that came in on any of the accounts that were previously settled and negotiated, yes, we absolutely would cover that as well. So we do have, and it's credit monitoring, so you can see the improvements of the credit score as it goes. So we do have a follow-up plan for those that have graduated and completed their program.
Gotcha. As I'm looking at the next question, it looks like we already discussed this, but if you want to kind of give a few high-level benefits for a debt settlement company to work with your company, what are the key benefits? I know we talked about this, but maybe you could mention again.
Well, I think definitely in the pro column is going to be increased enrollments, higher retention rate, better settlements on legal accounts, increase in revenue, just off of those three things that I just mentioned. There are companies that make commission on this, and there are companies that don't make commission on this. So obviously the volume and the pricing is going to be determined based off of that. And so I'd just like to say, I think that when you compare us with the other plans that are out there, from a compliance standpoint, I'm not saying that the other ones aren't compliant, but I'm saying that we are the only insurance product that's out there. And even though I have competition, I'm not too worried about it, because I think on a regulatory front, all our data, all our facts backs the value that we bring to the table. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Excellent. So, which actually is an excellent transition into I take it out two regulatory issues. We could spend hours talking about it, and we will on November 7th and 8th, really mostly November 8th. The good news is, I didn't announce this yet, but if you're listening to this webinar, we will announce this tomorrow, that on the 7th, when we have the legislative update, we decided to combine the legislative update with drinks, an open bar for 2 hours. So not only do you get to listen to a regulatory and legislative update from 2020-21, you get a chance to drink and hopefully ease your pain of listening to legislative. So literally it's going to be at the Waterfall Lounge. And so you could drink and listen to the legislative updates. Anyway, so we just picked two, right? When we're discussing, let's pick the two ones that I think we should discuss. And you just basically talked about insurance products, the fact that this is an insurance product. So why don't you tell us a little bit more? How is it different, for instance, than just the typical discounted club participation, right? What's the key difference in your opinion?
I think the key difference in my opinion of why one company would offer one over the other is going to be integrity and greed. And I don't say that in a negative way, but we're an insurance product, right? Our focus is the debt relief space. Every attorney that we have in our network has been recruited and vetted. We have monthly calls where our attorneys exchange ideas and our attorneys train each other, bringing on new attorneys and everyone talking to each other. So our focus is the debt settlement space. If you're going to go with a legal club, and let me remind people, when we first started this 10 years ago, 11 years ago, we were doing this with Hyatt Legal Plans. For those that have been around, they remember that. And Hyatt Legal Plan is what gave us the name, right? Without Hyatt Legal Plan, we probably wouldn't have had credibility to even get into the space, which was a great thing. But the problem with that was that as we were assigning claims, their attorneys would be soliciting bankruptcy. And so we knew right away, real quick, that wasn't going to work, and we had to break it down and create our own attorney network that specializes in the debt settlement space. So you're not going to get the bankruptcy solicitations. You're not going to get, why are you in that debt settlement program? You should quit and let me take care of this. This is a group of attorneys that are all on the same page and all have the same goal of helping these consumers complete their programs. That would probably be the biggest one.
And primarily, what you are known for, right, in this space is assisting in litigation, right? When a client gets sued, your attorneys are ready, willing, and able to come in and start, defend that consumer, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, and my firm works with a number of companies, obviously in the space that also your competitors, and also worked previously to the debt settlement space with some of these legal clubs. In fact, I had the fortune or misfortune of running a legal technology company that was connecting consumers to attorneys. The reason I say it's fortunate because it was actually quite successful when we launched. The misfortune was when COVID started, and then that actually was not was the misfortune of all of it. Yeah, I know. And but the discounted club. So it seems to me that you pay a fee, and then you just basically you get a discounted attorney, right? And I've seen companies in the legal tech space coming out and offering that, where they say, well, we'll do a will for you for a lower fee, right? Or we'll do a divorce for you. It's kind of interesting that in the legal tech space, you have companies that are coming out and saying, if you pay a monthly fee, you'll get a discount. So in the debt settlement space, I think what's kind of interesting is it's a different, right? It's synonymous with an insurance product, right? If there's a fortuitous event, right, you get coverage, right? You get counsel, right? Just like you get into a car accident, your insurance carrier is going to provide you with counsel, right, in case you get sued or if you need to sue someone. Correct?
Yes. Yeah, and that's that's kind of the thing when you talk about the differences, right? To me, and not to me, I shouldn't even say to me, the definition of insurance is indemnification, right? It's that
Right.
event that takes place. If you get sued, we will cover your attorney. That is the definition of insurance. And trust me when I tell you, the first few years when we were going through the process of getting licensed in all the states, it would have been awesome if it wasn't, but that's it. If you are collecting a monthly payment and you are providing legal services, that is the definition of insurance. Now I know, and I'm not knocking the attorney guys that are out there doing this, because that seems to be the only other competition in terms of what's out there. I shouldn't say that. I know there's some guys that are out there that are offering template answers. You collect money monthly, and then when the customer gets sued, you give them a template answer for them to file themselves. That's a little shady for me, but whatever, to each his own. So there's different things there, and I just think that it's all in the kind of what value you want to bring to your clients, and what environment do you want to create for your company. Do you want to be here forever, and have some growth, and know in a regulatory in an environment where it's heavily regulated? Why would you take any chances? And so to me, the insurance product is the solid one. I mean, maybe I'm wrong with this, Felix. I want to ask you the question, right? How would the ethics committee look at an attorney who, and I understand earned fees, but if 10% of the consumers in a debt settlement program are getting sued, that means the attorney is keeping the 90% and doing nothing for that. I mean, it's a rhetorical question. I don't know. Nobody knows the answer, but
it's a state by state basis. It's a state by state.
Some people would say that's a little, that's too much. And so that's why it's considered insurance, right? I mean, I have an admitted carrier that takes a piece. I got a reinsurance company that takes a piece, bonds that take a piece. I spend a lot of money to be compliant. And I wouldn't have a problem if it was a level playing field and everybody was playing in a compliant field as well.
Sure. No, absolutely. And what's interesting, and something, Angelo, you and I talked about this before, is unfortunately many companies do not see it as insurance product, and it's quite unfortunate, right? Because I'm obviously here. Well, this is my platform. I'm providing a very objective advice, not because you're the guest, but I want to be sure that those who are participating. The reality is, I've seen companies in this space who haven't done this correctly. I've seen companies who have done this correctly, but I also have seen some who haven't done this correctly. And I could tell you that particularly with major enforcement blitz that we're seeing from the CFPB, from state attorney general's offices, if you're a debt settlement company, if you're not partnered up with the right licensed or properly structured either legal club or insurance product, then you might have a problem. You will be held jointly liable, and potentially you could get the wrath of the regulators. The other interesting point is, while people in this space know me as a regulatory attorney, we do a lot of litigation throughout the country, and I could tell you that there's been a huge uptick in class actions and not just class actions, but really plaintiff cases filed against debt settlement companies, payment processors, and other ancillary products, and particularly the plaintiff's bar is looking not just well, where was my client misled, or where was my client charged wrongful amount of fees, or were properly disclosed, but was the product that was sold, in fact, something that was an insurance policy,
Right. Well, and how's that going to look also when the debt settlement company itself is starting their own legal plan and feeding their own clients, and we're seeing a lot of that as well in the industry.
Right. I mean, again, if they're starting a legal plan is one thing, but legal plan that's prepaid like a club, right? But then there's a question of there are a lot of questions. Again, is there a conflict of interest
Over drinks at your workshop?
Absolutely, right. I know.
Ask all of these questions when we meet at the workshop.
I know. I as you know, as those of you know, I don't hold back on these issues. I don't sugarcoat. There's always this question of if you are DSC and you also offer a plan, right? Whether it's an insurance product or if it's a prepaid plan, is there a conflict of interest, right? Because are you within the same entity, are you really looking out for the benefit of the client? And they're both sides of the arguments. I'm not saying that there is a conflict of interest, but there could be potential interesting argument, right? If it's within the same offered by the same company, because it isn't your fiduciary duty to ultimately represent the consumer in lowering that consumer's debt, right? And again, it's just a kind of interesting hypothetical questions, and we'll talk about this more in person in a week and a half. In any case, finally, let's talk about the 800-pound gorilla, the TSR implications, right? Upfront fees. Why don't you tell me a little bit more how you how you face TSR implications in this space, and what you've seen done right or wrong, and what exactly should debt settlement companies pay attention to when they're dealing with companies like yours?
That is the best question that I'm asked, and it's the $1 million question. I don't know what the right answer is. I'll tell you what I did, because when I had my debt settlement company, and prior to the no advance fee rule, the Uniform Debt Management Services Act was being adopted by quite a few states, and that legislation there allowed for a $500 enrollment fee and a monthly fee. And my thought process was, because you can't go to the CFPB and say, hey, how much is okay? What commission can I pay? What's too much? What's considered? That's the $1 million question. So to me, without having that, I felt, okay, what is fair? What is fair in terms of my marketing dollars that I'm going to have to spend if I go directly to the consumer? And I'd rather pass that on to the debt settlement companies as a referral fee, and even on the monthly. I've lost clients. I set my cap based off of the Debt Management Services Act, so that we have our caps on the enrollment fee, we have our caps on the monthly fee. They are in line with that. I've lost affiliates to legal plans that allowed the affiliates to charge a $950 enrollment fee. I would rather walk away from an affiliate who is looking to do that than jeopardize what I've built over the last 10, 11 years. So I think I'm good. I don't know. But, in terms of abusive, I like I said, that's the reason that I cap it. I think always keeping in mind the consumer, and I've always, in doing the numbers, doing the calculations, that it extends the programs about 3 or 4 months. I felt that was safe. And for what it provided the consumer, I felt that was an acceptable exchange. So that's kind of the, I don't know. We've had this conversation before. What the hell is the number, right?
Yep. Yep. So I guess the ultimate TNSR conversation we'll have in Costa Mesa on November 8th. We'll have a lot of discussions about it, but we have to be mindful that TSR is something that could be enforced in the court of law, not only by the federal regulators, but also by state regulators. They do have the jurisdiction and judicial authority to enforce that. We've seen that. And I can tell you that, again, the focus of however these plans are run, you need to make sure that the money goes directly from a consumer to the legal plan, right? And it could be collected by the payment processor. That's not a problem. But we need to be mindful that everything outside of that could be scrutinized as a TSR violation. And we can discuss that more in a week and a half. That's it for all my questions. I don't know, Angelo, do you have anything else to say before we wrap this up?
No, I hope to see a lot of you guys out in California next week and answer all of your questions, any questions that you guys have.
Absolutely. I know we have some questions right now, but I don't typically during these webinars take these questions, and I apologize.
I do see that one question, Felix. Do you mind? I have no problem answering.
Go ahead.
That.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. So the question that was posed was, do people who sell it require insurance licenses? This is a different type of insurance. Consider this like no different than if you go rent a car and the guy behind the Hertz counter says, do you want the insurance? Or if you walk into a dentist office and the woman behind the counter says, do you want dental insurance? You're not selling it. You're just proposing it to them. They're signing the paper, sending it back. So although there's a 220 licensed agent who receives all the paperwork, does the underwriting as the debt settlement companies themselves, you're not selling it. You're just presenting it. So no license is required.
Great. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, no problem.
Angelo, thanks. You've been a blast. Always a great time to, first of all, thank you for being a guest. Thank you for joining. Thank you to everybody who joined us today. We hope to see you in California 7th and 8th. If you can't make it, there's a virtual ticket option, but we obviously encourage you to attend in person. It's just better. I know, and we're going to be very, very careful. Obviously, whatever the state of California COVID mandates are. In any case, if you can't make it, we hope to see you for future webinars. You should certainly sign up for our free news alerts on debtreliefwatch.com. Which, by the way, shortly will also have information about credit repair laws and credit repair organizations. And I think that's sort of a new area that our firm is going to venture into. And we appreciate your time. Thank you, Angelo. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thank you.